Hello everyone. So with the release of Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, I figured the best way to start would be doing a run that's never been done before in Sinnoh. The reason it's never been done is because back then the fairy type did not exist, therefore it's impossible to have done one. The rules as always are on the screen right now. If you ever need to look back at them, you just look in the description below. I always put them there. The only difference between this and one of my normal hardcore Nuzlockes is I'm limiting my underground encounters to 1 per gym badge. This is just to prevent me from getting a team of 6 before the first gym and annihilating it because of it. We start our adventure watching some doom and gloom on the television before having a good stretch because we're never resting again. I then meet up with Barry in his room and he must think I'm a 1 million subscriber YouTube channel as he wants to make a bet of 10 million. We then see an old man and a young woman by a lake. I really hope it's not that sort of arrangement. I'm thinking it might have been because he's left a briefcase which I can only assume is full of money. Oh wait, it's Pokemon. Obviously because Chimchar is the best Sinnoh starter, we pick Chimchar. It also makes sure Barry later on does have a steel type which is super effective against us. Now that we've got our Pokemon, we head back home and we get some running shoes off our mother. We then try to progress, but Dawn does not want that and she sends us right back home. Thankfully, our mum understands how important being a Pokemon champion is, so she gives us a cap and lets us go on our way.
Ah, look at the top of his head!
As we progress through the next city, we get introduced to a mustache man who eventually ends up giving us a free smartwatch. Now, I know I'm getting fat, but I feel a bit insulted he would just give us one. We then have a Barry fight, but I'm quite prepared for it as I made sure I was leveled, so yeah, it goes like this. We then get to see Rourke showing us the power of Rock Smash. However, our watch can do that, so it can't be that tough. Now, we can't actually get a fairy before the first gym. Therefore, we get to see this new animation for evolving as Chimchar evolves into Monferno. We then get the joy of seeing what they did at the start of gyms now, and they do this nice little look over. It's honestly beautiful. Anyway, Monferno has learned Power-Up Punch in this gen, which means we basically fly right on through it as we just decimate rock types with our fighting moves. We then meet up with the Mustache Beauty Rowan and he wants us to take down some bowl cutters. You can't have at someone when they've got a beautiful mustache if you've got such a terrible haircut. We then decide to chase down the bowl cuts, however they lock the door to try and escape us. We then have to go into the Field of Flowers and we have to save an old man from more of these bowl cuts. He gives us a key and a jar of honey. And there's only one thing you can do with the honey.
Give your meat a good old rub.
We then have a Mars fight, but we've got Monferno. The thing knows Power-Up Punch, so we do actually get past both of her Pokemon incredibly easily. To be fair, I think even with the fairy types, this probably would have been an easy battle though. However, that is going to be one of the last fights we can't do without fairies, as we now have access to the Grand Underground. There are 2 possible Pokemon we can get from down here. We will eventually get the other one, but this one for now is a Ralts. We catch her and we end up calling her Jasmine. After that, we end up running into Cynthia, and as always, she is fabulous and wants to give us some cut TMs. Before we do anything else, we should probably get the other fairy type, and that is going to be a Cleffa. There was a chance of getting a Clefairy here, but obviously they want us to do the running. Once we've caught her, we end up calling her Belle. Gardenia is actually quite risky when you do the calculations, and I am going to have to chance a crit, so I decide to evolve both Ralts and Cleffa at the same time just to make sure we don't wipe here. Anyway, all that said, we are ready for Gardenia. She starts off with her Cherubi, and this thing can't really do an awful lot to us, and we managed to find the Carmine TM in the underground. That means I've taught Carmine, and I can just sell for free on it. After a few of these, we then decide to take it out with a couple of Draining Kiss to ensure we have the most health as possible going forward. And because of all that free setup and we're being on incredible health, the Turtwig stands no chance and goes right down. This is where we've got the issue though. She sends out her Roserade. Now, her Roserade is faster than us and we will one-shot it, but if it crits us, we'll lose. It hits us, and it doesn't. That means we can carry on forward and beat the second gym. After that fight, we've then got a Jupiter battle. She begins with Zubat, but this thing can actually do some pretty major damage to us, so I decide just to take it out straight away. We then have the Skunk Tank to deal with, but it's not actually that scary because it's got special moves. That means I can set up a few Carmines against it. Unfortunately, partway through, we do end up getting poisoned. This means I choose to switch to Draining Kiss to ensure we don't get chipped away and taken out because of it. Without getting that health back, we are definitely risking being taken out with a crit as that bypasses this special defense raises. Thankfully though, none of that happens and we do take it out with relatively high health, meaning Aftermath does nothing to us. We then get to go get a bike and we get to choose the colour. I choose yellow and then we strike a pose with it. We then run into and meet Cyrus. Whoa, there's a Yu-Gi-Oh crossover? We carry on a little bit further and I've got to say, this Baneri running into you is a lot better in the originals where it literally slams into you. We then run into Fantina, but she tells us we're not strong enough to take her on yet. Men can be strong as well as women. I then go into the contest hall and we actually learn our mum's name. She's called Joanna. I don't think this has happened in any other games, but it's here now. If it has, could you guys actually let me know because I can't remember it. We then run into Amity Square to try and get away from our Clefairy, but it just seems to be hunting us down. We progress a little bit further and we have another Barry fight. However, Kirlia can solo this. Prinplup has learned Metal Claw, but it's not got its Steel typing, meaning it doesn't resist our Fairy type moves and it's not got Stab on it, so he can't really do a thing to us. After that pure decimation, we're ready to go and get another team member, being Mime Jr. Once it's caught, we end up calling it Snow White. I think this nickname might have busted the name theme a bit wide open. We then have the opportunity to get another encounter in the Safari Zone, but this thing takes forever to find. Like, looking here, I actually got timed out and had to re-enter before I managed to find one. It also doesn't help that in this game, they've added the bumpers as A, so I kept accidentally throwing balls at random Pokemon. There are 2 encounters from the Fairy line we can get, one being the more common, Marill, and one being less common at only 1%, Azurill. This game does hate me though, so it gives me an Azurill. That means I have to do another wander to get the friendship up. I think Mulan's a fitting name for it. I then have the tedious task of yet again running round and just look, it can't catch up with us. How does this raise friendship? Once that's done, we get him to evolve into a Marill, even though that's what we should have started off with. And because we need a certain move, we instantly evolve it into an Azumarill. With him trained up and close to level cap, we're now ready to take on Maylene. The strategy for Maylene is actually a rather simple one. We start off with Substitute and then we hit it with a Play Rough. It should have been a one-shot, but thanks to the bulk up, it doesn't end up being. However, it does make her use her Hyper Potion. I then decide, because it's faster than us and I'm not going to one-shot it, I'll go for Bulldoze to slow it down. We then use one workup to guarantee that we're going to take it out with the next Play Rough. Against the Machoke, all we need to do is use another workup, make sure our sub is set up for the Lucario, and then finish it off with one Play Rough. Now, Lucario is a Steel type and it's crazy fast, so I opt to go for Bulldoze as it slows it down. Because it is just that fast though, it does still outspeed us, so I need to use another Bulldoze before I can take it over in terms of speed. Once that's done though, it's very low, she's not going to use another Hyper Potion, therefore the Bulldoze finally takes it out. Dawn then comes up to us and asks something, but I was just like trying to crack on, so not a clue what she's on about. With Maylene and Wake's level cap being the same, I didn't get it to level 30 beforehand, but now Maylene's dealt with, I can evolve Kirlia into Gardevoir. We are then ready to take on Wake. In preparation of this, I taught Jasmine Thunderbolt. Obviously, it's going to take down the Gyarados in one. We then have Quagsire come out. Now, it can't be hit with Thunderbolt, so I taught it Grass Knot, which again, 4 times effective, so takes it out in one. After this, all that's left is Floatzel. The only worry we have is if it flinches us with Bite, or it freezes us with Ice Fang. However, if the latter happens, I've actually got a berry equipped to heal the freezing. He opts to go for the Ice Fang, but it doesn't freeze, and it also crits and only does half damage, meaning we one-shot it and take it out, and that is 4 gym badges down. I then spend a bit of time wondering why I can't progress in the game before remembering. Dawn asked us to do something, let's go help her get that Pokedex back. And with that done, now when I speak to the bowl cut, I can actually get a reply from him, and he goes dashing away. Now, Barry can obviously tell we're in a bit of a rush, but it doesn't stop him from bothering us and stopping us chasing anyone. He starts off with a Starly, but obviously that's going to go down to 1 Thunderbolt. Like, why don't you have a Staravia at this point? Seriously, Barry. Prinplup is obviously just a Water type, so a Thunderbolt again will take that right down. Roselia is a bit of a different one. I forget that I don't actually have any Psychic moves on Jasmine, so I decide to switch into Snow White since I know it has one. Although she does get Leech Seeded on entry, it doesn't really matter as Roselia goes down in only 2 Psybeams. Finally, we have the Ponyta. The only Pokemon that she's not going to do very well against is my Azumarill, so I just bring that out and spam Bulldoze until it's taken down. With Barry smashed down, we're now ready to catch up to the Grunt, and obviously we decimate him as well. We then run into Cynthia, and we were planning on going for a stroll in the lake, but there are two guys blocking us. Because of this, she decides to give us some medicine, and we can go cure some ducks. I didn't actually know headache stopped you from walking, but according to these ducks, the moment it's cured, they can just wander off. Cynthia then thanks us for doing that, but the thing I don't get is if she was coming this way, why didn't she do it anyway? She's also, you know, ready to go to Celestic Town, but we have to do the errand to give her grandmother an old charm. On the plus side, maybe we'll get some Werther's Originals. Yay. Now we're finally able to teach Mime Junior Mimic, we can finally evolve it into a Mr. Mime. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. After this, I decide it's time to go underground and get my last encounter being a Togepi. They get the nickname Rapunzel and we can carry on with the adventure. Starts off in Celestic Town with some weird guy just standing outside a cave. He tells us in no universe can we beat him, so obviously we have to give him the what for. His level is really low, but I'm getting incredibly close to the level cap, so I do need to be careful here. After that, we end up going and inspecting some paintings. An old lady then gives us the history of it. Now, I'm not saying these painters are terrible, but I think I could do a better job, and I can only draw stickmen. As I leave the cave, we run into Cyrus again. Turns out he remembers us, must be our sparkling personality. Now that we've done that task though, we are ready to take on Fantina. She starts off with Drifblim, so I choose to start off with Snow White. They actually only know special moves, so I decide it's time to set up a light screen first thing, and thank God I did, as she would have done almost half health if I hadn't. After that, it's time to do a few nasty plots before passing our baton and bringing out Jasmine. On the turn I enter, Drifblim decides to use Fly, therefore I set up one Calm Mind as I know I'm going to be faster, so I might as well make use of this time. Once it glides into us, we can then take it down just using one Thunderbolt. After this, we have Gengar who confuses us, but we just need to use one Thunderbolt and we can take it down. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen though, and we hit ourselves. The next turn, Gengar swipes with a Shadow Claw and crits us, taking us to only 2 health. Now, all we need to do is use the Thunderbolt and we can take it down. Now, us being at 30 health is incredibly bad against Mismagius, and I know we're not going to survive an attack. Therefore, I opt to bring Belle out. On the turn, Belle comes in, she uses Phantom Force so we don't take any damage, and this means it's safe for me to try and set up a Sing. It does thankfully hit, and we've put it to sleep. Now that's done, I can bring Mulan out, and since it's asleep, she should be safe. I decide I should go for a substitute just in case she wakes up, but she instantly wakes up and confuses me. I never get good sleep luck. It's ridiculous. She then uses Magical Leaf, which would have done a lot more than 25% damage, so thank God we used it. We also repay her waking up sleep first turn by getting out of confusion this first turn. Unfortunately for us though, our play rough only manages to do about half damage, meaning she can set up yet another Confuse Ray against us. This time though, we don't end up getting lucky and we actually hit ourselves in confusion. At this point, there really isn't anyone I can bring out, and Azumarill will survive as long as it's not a crit against us, therefore I decide to chance going for it. I mean, what are the chances of hitting yourself twice in a row, right? Thankfully, very low, and we can take the Mismagius out and acquire the 5th gym badge. We then meet up with Cynthia again, and she's very close to our face. Like, we need some personal space, especially after the year we've had. We tell her to turn around, and she does. Hey, that's rude. We then have yet another Barry fight to deal with. This one was actually unexpected because I'd forgotten about it, but it is incredibly easy. Mr. Mime knows Nasty Plot, and the Staravia goes for a double team as we set ourselves up. It does eventually hit us, so I decide to go for a Shockwave. Thankfully, I kept this on him as it never misses, so the double team didn't work. We then have the Prinplup to deal with, and I feel Jasmine would do a much better job, so I Baton Pass out into it. And I was correct, as it only does about a quarter damage to us. From there, the Prinplup goes down simply to 1 Thunderbolt. We're at +4 special attack, so even though Roselia resists the Thunderbolt, it's still one-shots. Ponyta then meets the exact same fate as the previous 2 victims. And finally, Heracross comes out, but it's fighting type, and we know Dazzling Gleam, which is super effective against it. You may have surprised me, Barry, but you still got absolutely decimated.
You're a 3rd-rate duelist with a 4th-rate deck.
Now that he's dealt with, we just have to deal with Byron, and I'll tell you what, the XP management to get up to here was incredibly hard. I very nearly over-leveled just getting up to here, fighting through all his trainers. He starts off with Bronzor as I start off with Belle. I do this because she can set up Stealth Rocks, and 2 of his Pokemon have Sturdy. He then uses Trick Room with his Bronzor, so I decide to try and wait it out by using an Encore. At that point, he had already confused us and we hit ourselves in confusion. He then decides to set up a Sandstorm as I finally hit my Encore. Now I've done that, I bring out Snow White and I go for a nasty plot. Unfortunately, the AI is somewhat decent and decides to bring his Bronzor out so the Encore won't be affecting and bring Steelix in because it's incredibly powerful. It is now too dangerous to stay in with Mr. Mime, therefore I baton pass out into Jasmine. Thankfully, my Gardevoir has Trace and I equipped a Citrus Berry. This means I will be taken down to 1 health and heal up so the Sandstorm won't kill us. Then, because of Steelix's sheer weight and the nasty plot, it just takes 1 Grass Knot to take it down. The Bronzor then comes out, and I know this thing can't do a lot of damage to us, even with a crit, so I use a Calm Mind. It then avoids the Bronzor attack, so it's actually safe to use yet another Calm Mind, and that means we've got the 2 nasty plots just like I planned if he hadn't switched. Unfortunately, though, as I go for the second Calm Mind, he does use Trick Room, meaning he's going to be faster than us. This will mean if I take it down now, Bastiodon will be faster and 100% take us out. Therefore, I bring Mulan back out. He uses Confuse Ray on our Mulan as we attempt to set up a substitute. Thankfully, it didn't affect us and we did get it set up though. By the time my substitute fades, I've got 3 workups set up, but it does have Trick Room, so it's going to be faster than us all now. Obviously, I don't want Bastiodon to be able to hit us, therefore I use yet another substitute. Since I'm waiting out Trick Room, I just decide to do a few more workups. The moment Sandstorm and Trick Room cease to be, I'm able to use a Play Rough and finally finish off this Bronzor. I'm also at +6 attack, and with these Stealth Rocks breaking Bastiodon's sturdy, I can take him out using 1 Bulldoze. And that's it, that's the 6th gym done. We then meet up with Mr. Mustachio in the library. The building then shakes and they all rush to the door, but they don't wait for me. No, I get to go out after them. Yeah, claiming to be friends, eh? I doubt it. Once we're outside, a sailor comes and tells us the events. Kaboom! Very informative, thank you so much, sir. We're told we need to go visit a lake, but I've never been on a boat before, so I want to do a little boat ride. We end up at some island, and we end up meeting a guy who has actually got a really cool hat, and a pretty good sprite, to be honest. Unlike Cyrus, they really did this guy justice with this remake. He sticks with us until we battle some galactic grunts, but the real reason we came here was for one thing, and that was a stone. We then decide that we have to go do our job, therefore we run into a new commander. The issue with Saturn, though, is they really aren't any good. The best Pokemon is Toxicroak, which is a pretty good Pokemon, but all the others are a bit mediocre. Therefore, this happens. With her beaten down, it's now time to go meet up with Rowan again and try and help Dawn out, because apparently she can't take down 1 person. Why is it always up to us to deal with everyone? Why is everyone else inept half the time? There is one unfortunate thing about the Mars fight though, and that is most of my Pokemon are basically at the level cap already, and I still have a bit to do before I take on a gym. Because of this, I decided it's time that we need to do a bit of friendship training, and I evolve Rapunzel into a Togetic. We've also just managed to get ourselves a Shiny Stone, therefore it goes right into a Togekiss. This did help us in our journey, but as you can see, by the time I got to the 7th gym, 2 of my members were overleveled. Thankfully, I did manage to keep 3 of my Pokemon under it, and to me, that's enough to take her on. She starts off with Snover, I start off with my Snow White, I Nasty Plot twice, and then Baton Pass into Rapunzel. Obviously, this is enough to take down the Snover in 1, and then we've got the Medicham. We'll also oh my god, it's faster than us. It would seem I did some of the calculations wrong, because this thing's actually faster than us, meaning it has knocked me incredibly low. This puts me in a major dilemma, as I know the Sneasel is faster than us. It knows Avalanche, which if it uses, it's a negative priority move, so I can be safe using it. But it also knows Metal Claw, which isn't, and it will outspeed and kill us if it uses this. Because of the 50-50 and I don't want to lose Togekiss, I decide to bring Jasmine in, and it uses Avalanche, so I made the wrong decision. It then just decides to go for a Hone Claw so we can take it out with 1 Dazzling Gleam. Then out comes the Abomasnow. Now I know I do about half damage with a Psychic, so I go for it. I did, however, forget that it had a Citrus Berry, meaning I will not kill it on the next turn. The issue we've got now is another Psychic will take her that low where she'll heal, and then we're definitely not surviving. At this point, the Hail has gone as well, so there is a 30% chance of them missing. Because of this, I make the decision to take the risk on sacking Jasmine. I use one Grass Knot, which won't take it into healing range, but it will take it into range of being taken out by a Psychic. It then uses Blizzard, and there's a 30% chance of it missing.
It's called cheating.
Well, I'm not arguing with that. It's now in Psychic range, and we can take it down deathless. I really did not expect this to happen. With the 7th gym out of the way, we can then go and see Barry crying into a lake. At least he's conserving the water and sending it back into the environment. Because of all that Team Galactic's up to, though, we do need to go, and we finally have the first battle with Cyrus. What a pushover. We then get the joy of freeing the Lake Trio, and I expected some amazing animation, but it's just I'm a bit disappointed, not gonna lie. Anyway, now that they're free, we decide it's time to go and take on all of Team Galactic. We need to stop them. I'm kind of thankful they did do this, though, as we get to see this amazing animation of Dialga coming into our universe. He covers the world with rainbows, and is introduced as the Deity of Time. Well, I want that deity in my Pokedex, so we go right on and we have a double battle. I use the Bronzor as a good opportunity to set up. I set up a substitute and just work up till my attack is maxed. Munchlax is also slowly taking them down as we do this. Once the Bronzor go down, Skuntank and Purugly come out. Now, I use Bulldoze, and that makes these things slow as anything, so they can easily be taken out between me and Barry. After that, all that's left are 2 Golbat, and they're pretty strong, so I bring out my defensive tank in Rapunzel. Between Rapunzel and Barry's 2 Pokemon, we make incredibly short work of these, and we can carry on. We then see Dialga try to ruin our universe, but the Lake Trio comes down and breaks his rings. Cyrus is jealous that we've removed the wedding ring from Dialga, so he attacks us. He starts off with Honchkrow, as I start off with Mulan, who uses a Play Rough and nearly takes it out. After that, he's gonna heal, and I know he probably won't break my substitute, so I decide just to set one up, and that gives me my Citrus Berry proc, the main reason I switched out in the last fight. I can then get away with using a workup without my substitute breaking or me taking crazy damage. He does, however, just spam Defog. Now, I take this as an opportunity. Use workup as much as I can. By the time I take Honchkrow down, I'm actually incredibly low. I do know, however, he'll want to set up a move, therefore I decide to go for one hit, and he does set up Tailwind, but it's unsafe to stay in from this point. The reason being is this Crobat actually has Infiltrator as an ability, meaning the substitute won't defend us from its attacks. Rapunzel's pretty tanky, so I decide to bring it in against this Crobat. We do manage to get a hit off against it, but it did knock us to 1 HP, and then we only have 39 with the Citrus Berry heal. Gyarados is guaranteed to go for Ice Fang. Now, this will only take out Togekiss, and I decide it's good to switch into Jasmine, as she'll Trace, Intimidate, and lower his attack. This means he does pitiful damage with most of his attacks, and it only takes us 2 Thunderbolts to take him down when we're on about half health. After this, he's down to his last Pokemon in Weavile. Now, this thing is going to be faster, and it does know Metal Claw, but I know it won't take us out, therefore I go for a Dazzling Gleam. Obviously, this manages to take him out, and Cyrus has been defeated. Team Galactic then leave, which means there is one thing left to do, and that is fight Dialga. In this game, though, they have made quite the big error. They seem to have removed Metal Claw from its attack pool. This means Azumarill is just able to sweep it, but doing so does put him on literally a slither from being level 50. If he goes to that, it'll be past the level cap, therefore we can't take that risk. After all that, we've got the 8th and final gym to take down, but first we've got to stop him from being moody in a lighthouse. Is that about challenging the Elite Four? I don't know why he hasn't done it by now. If you want to fight powerful trainers, why don't you just go to the best of the best in your region? Makes sense. Why would you be a gym leader? You're going to get all sorts of people around. We then learn that this guy is all bark and no bite because we sweep him just using Jasmine and Snow White.
That was easy.
After that, we actually meet up with someone else called Jasmine, and she gives us Waterfall, so we finally got a stab physical move for Mulan. With that out of the way, we can now move on to the Elite Four, where Barry challenges us at the door. He starts off with his Staraptor as I start off with my Snow White. I take it under half health with a Psychic, but it then steals our Berry and heals a lot of its health back. I then decide it's time to reflect since he's a physical attacker, so I do that, but he switches out into Empoleon. Empoleon's moves are special, and I know I'm not going to take a hit, so I switch into Rapunzel. Rapunzel has Light Screen, which is pretty good for us to set up against this Empoleon, but he has knocked us incredibly low by the time we do it. Because she's so low, we need to bring Jasmine in, and she thankfully dodges an attack as she comes in. Would have been a brine, so not too bad anyway, but still. We use a Thunderbolt as he uses a Flash Cannon, but he doesn't knock us that low, which means we can take him out on the next turn. He then brings out Roserade, but it's Poison type and we know Psychic, so obviously that goes down. After that, he brings out his Rapidash and it's a physical attacker, therefore I have no choice but to bring in Mulan. She ends up going for Poison Jab, but we do dodge it coming in again. Friendship coming in clutch for sure. He makes up for it though, as on the next turn when he hits that Poison Jab, it does poison us. Mulan didn't want any of that though, so it healed itself and took it down using 2 Waterfalls. Even if it hadn't have healed the poison, it would have survived it though, as we did equip a Citrus Berry. He then brings out his Snorlax, so I decide to set up a substitute so it can't do major damage to us. We get off 1 Play Rough before the substitute fades, but we do know it's going to be using high horsepower. This gives us a completely safe switch into Rapunzel, therefore I do that. Rapunzel does have Serene Grace, so I decide to try and get a bit lucky with flinches, but I only get the 1 before being knocked incredibly low. I know he can't take Gardevoir out unless he uses high horsepower, so I switch into it. However, this was a mistake as Cover actually steals our item and he gets to heal. Completely shocking play on my half, I'm not even going to deny it. Because he's done this, I switch out twice and end up having Belle out. Belle is the only one of my Pokemon left with some decent health, but it guarantees he's going to go for high horsepower and we can encore him into it, making it safe to bring out Rapunzel. Rapunzel goes for a Nasty Plot as I didn't expect him to switch out, which he does. The Heracross is also faster than us, which I honestly didn't know was a thing, but thankfully, we managed to get through it, toughening on with Friendship. His Snorlax then comes out yet again, therefore we need to bring Belle in, and I'm just trying to stall him a bit with Moonlights until he misses me. He never does, and he puts us to sleep, meaning that we have no choice but to say goodbye. It's a shame to lose your Belle, but there's really no other way around this, as you are the only one member of the team I can afford to lose. From this point, we can take him out with Rapunzel, but we have lost a Pokemon. The only slight upside of this is I now don't have to use Thief to try and find a Moonstone. Also, this could have all been avoided had I just done some leveling beforehand. I was being a bit anxious to get it done and I just rushed it. Therefore, I've had to make the decision that I can't do that for the Elite Four. Once I've managed to get myself up to the level cap, I then come in and it's time to take on Aaron. I start off with Snow White as he starts off with Dustox. The only thing this can hit us with is actually the Toxic, therefore it's free to set up some nasty plots. After this is done, I set up 1 Reflect and use a Psychic to take it out. He then brings out Beautifly, but that's also a one-shot. As we learned from the last battle, Heracross is fast, so I don't want to take chances and Mr. Mime's my fastest Pokemon, so I use a Psychic to take that out. Since all that's left is Vespiquen and Drapion, I need to set up a Reflect so the Drapion doesn't one-shot us. It's then up to Snow White to finally relieve her duties and give it on to Rapunzel. This then takes them both down with an Air Slash, and you can see how low we got against the Drapion. That's why we needed that Reflect. First Elite Four member down, and we can now go on to Bertha. Had I had Belle still, this would be a much more straightforward strategy. Stealth Rocks and then sweep with a Pokemon and Grass Knot. I start off using Snow White, who sets up 3 Nasty Plots. He does get poisoned during this, but I did equip a berry to heal that for that very reason. I then Baton Pass into Jasmine, who manages to trace the Water Absorb to take no damage. After this, it's just a matter of using Grass Knots until we take all of her Pokemon down. The only one that survives any is the Golem with its Sturdy, but it doesn't manage to hit us, and even if it did, it can't take us out. Well, that's 2 battles that have been very free up to now, but I've got one that I'm really scared of, and that is Flint. He's actually got a mixed typing with his team, so it's a bit scary. I start off with Rapunzel, as he starts off with his Rapidash. He misses his first attack, which is good, as I have time to set the Reflect up now. He then misses his second attack, giving me the opportunity to set up a Nasty Plot. With that, I opt to go for an Air Slash, and it does take it into the red. Now, I know he's going to use a heal, so I can use yet another Nasty Plot, and I know next time I hit it, it's going to die. He then sends out his Steelix, but I know Flamethrower, which one-shots that as it doesn't have Sturdy. Lopunny then manages to come out, and although it does burn us, I set up a Reflect, so it's doing no damage to us. This again makes it safe to take this guy down. After this, we've got Drifblim, but all it takes is 1 Air Slash, and that thing's gone. Now he sends out his Infernape, and we get 1 Air Slash off on it. It does manage to do decent damage to us, and I know if it hits us a crit, it'll go through my Reflect, so I just opt to go to Gardevoir to be safe. Obviously then, 1 Psychic is more than enough to be taking this guy down. I was honestly terrified of this battle, but it went incredibly swimmingly. Now we have the final Elite Four member being Lucian. He starts off with Mr. Mime, as I start off with Rapunzel and use a few Nasty Plots. I do this because his Mr. Mime can't really touch us. It won't do a lot of damage if it does, so it's safe setting up. And from that point, it is incredibly easy, and we take down all of his Pokemon without taking any major damage. Now we have the final moment of truth, the Cynthia battle. I devised an almost foolproof plan for taking her down. Genuinely, there are only 2 moments in which this can go wrong. The strategy is to start off with Snow White and set up a light screen. Once a light screen is set up, we can use 1 Nasty Plot, and then upon doing that, we can Baton Pass into Rapunzel. Light screen, and we're incredibly tanky, nothing can go... We got crit. Oh my god, this is literally the one turn where it basically mattered not getting crit. We then have to substitute because another crit and that's us down. He does break it, but we've managed to make him use his Citrus Berry up before that point. I then substitute yet again, but he switches into his Gastrodon. This thing goes down to 1 Grass Knot since it's 4 times weak to it. She then brings in the Roserade, but we've got Flamethrower and we've Nasty Plotted, which makes it 100% to kill. After this is Milotic. Now, we actually wanted a substitute set up for this as we know it's going to take us down. This means we have no choice but to bring in Jasmine. I use Grass Knot against it and almost take it down as it uses a Scold. Then, as I'm about to take it down with another Grass Knot, she switches into Lucario. I literally cannot do anything with Jasmine from here, so we have no choice but to sack her. Mulan is the safest bet here, and we do eventually manage to take down the Lucario using 2 Play Roughs. She then sends out Spiritomb, but Mulan is 100% faster, so we take that down using a Play Rough. Then we have Milotic. Now, we've got no chance of taking this thing on, so I just stop it in, and I save myself with Friendship, but she burns me, so it doesn't matter anyway. I did get 1 hit off, though, so that's thankful. After this, I choose to switch into Rapunzel. I had it in my head she'd already used her full restore up, therefore I go for a Grass Knot instead of a substitute. Unfortunately, that means we don't do anywhere near enough damage to her, and she does take us out on the next turn. All that's left now is Snow White, and he can use 1 Psychic, but it does nothing to the Milotic, so that is game over. Literally, if we hadn't have got crit, we would have probably managed to get past this thanks to the substitute light screen strategy. But sometimes that's just how it goes. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to leave it a like, I would appreciate it very much. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, as it helps us grow, and we are trying to get to 10,000 by the end of the year. I'm also going to be doing a lot of BDSP content going forward, so just let me know what sort of runs you want to see below. Thank you for your time, and goodbye.